My mom mouthed, "We don't sit with kids like you." Everyone laughed. I shrugged, took my little daughter's hand and walked out. Dad pinged, "Payment tomorrow, right?" I typed back, "I don't help parents like you." The next day I just cut them off from payments. And then I was angry at my mother for what she said, and just as angry at my father for sitting there and letting it happen. That's how it had always been, her mouth, his silence. Sometimes he'd nod along, sometimes laugh, sometimes just pretend not to hear. But he never stopped her. Never once defended me or my daughter. It was my brother's 34th birthday. He invited everyone like he always did, as if our family wasn't held together by duct tape and denial. He wanted it to be normal, and for his sake I was willing to play along. I even brought a gift. A nice one. I made sure my daughter wore something cute. A pink dress with puffed sleeves and tiny strawberries on it. She brushed her hair twice because she said Grandma liked it neat. That alone nearly broke me. When we walked into the house, everything felt almost warm for a second. The smell of baked ziti and cake, the sound of music playing low from the speakers in the living room, my brother's kids chasing each other in socks. His wife waved at me like she always did, with that tired but kind look in her eyes. My daughter squeezed my hand and asked if she could give Uncle Ryan her drawing. She had made one of him as a superhero. I told her yes. I always tell her yes. We walked in further, and that's when I saw my mother sitting at the table, already sipping white wine like it was water. She glanced up and her eyes landed on my daughter first, then on me. Her expression didn't change. She leaned over and said something to my dad. I couldn't hear it, but I saw her mouth the words. Fully. Deliberately. "We don't sit with kids like that." She didn't even look away when I saw her say it. Like it wasn't worth hiding. My dad looked at her, then at me, and let out this short, sharp laugh. Like someone telling a mean joke that wasn't actually funny. A few people around them laughed too, just from the sound of it. I doubt any of them knew what was said. But it didn't matter. My daughter was still smiling, clutching her drawing. I bent down and whispered that we had to leave. She looked up at me, confused, but nodded. She always nods. I think she's gotten used to things she shouldn't have to be used to. As we walked back out, my brother caught us in the driveway. He looked panicked. Kept asking what happened, why we were leaving. I told him I didn't want to make a scene. I told him it was his day. I asked him not to fight with them, not today. He looked over my shoulder toward the front window, and I knew he had a guess. But he didn't push me. We got home and I microwaved leftover pasta for her. She drew quietly while she ate, then asked if Grandma didn't like her drawing. I said it had nothing to do with the drawing. She nodded again and went to her room without another word. At 10:06 p.m. my dad texted me. "Payment tomorrow, right?" That was it. No question about how we were. No mention of the dinner. Not even pretending anymore. Just the usual reminder that I was their retirement plan. I stared at the message for a long time, then finally typed back. "I don't help parents like you." No response. The next morning I opened every account I had linked to them. I stopped every transfer. Cancelled every bill. Shut off their auto-pay for the car insurance I'd been covering. Blocked the pharmacy I'd been sending payments to for their medications. Every little thread I'd been using to hold their lives together. Gone in 10 minutes. They didn't call. They didn't text. But I knew they noticed. And I knew this was just the beginning. Because if there's one thing about my parents, it's that they never take silence as a final answer. They didn't call the first day. Or the second. My brother did, though. He said Mom was pacing around the house like a storm cloud and Dad kept slamming cabinet doors. He tried to talk to them, said he asked why they couldn't just be kind for once. I told him not to bother. That I didn't need him to fix it. But then he asked me something that stuck. He said, "Gloria, how long are you going to keep doing this? Keep forgiving them?" I didn't have an answer. I just asked him how the kids were. By the end of the week, my parents figured out I wasn't bluffing. The pharmacy called me directly, asking about a declined card. Then my dad left a voicemail pretending he didn't know what happened. Said something about glitches, and payment didn't go through. My mom followed it up the next day with a text full of guilt-coded demands. She said it wasn't right that I was taking things out on them when they'd done nothing but raise me right. She said I was hurting them for no reason. No mention of what she said at the party. No apology. Not even an acknowledgement that it happened. Like I made it up. Like I was the problem. I didn't reply. A week later my brother came over. Just to talk, he said. I hadn't seen him since the party, but he brought a huge bag of markers and glitter pens for my daughter and let her sit on the couch next to him while he played videos on his phone for her. He adored him. Always had. He never said the wrong thing around her. Never made her feel like a burden. Then he looked out the window and said quietly so she wouldn't hear it, "Is that their car?" I stood up, walked to the window. It was. They'd shown up. No warning, no call. Just saw his car and decided to come in. I didn't open the door. I didn't have to. My mom let herself in like it was still her house. Dad followed behind, already muttering about this nonsense and how disrespectful I'd become. The second they saw my brother, their tone changed. Of course it did. They loved him. Always had. He was their shining star. 6 foot tall, athletic, clean-cut, good job, good family, not a trace of softness anywhere. No flaws to pick at. But I wasn't him. And they'd never let me forget it. The argument started before I could even speak. My mother accused me of turning my daughter into a victim just for sympathy. My dad asked how long I planned to punish them for being old-fashioned. My brother raised his voice. That never happened. Ever. But this time he did. Told them to stop. Told them to listen. Told them they couldn't treat people like that and still expect help. They turned on him in seconds. But not really. Not with teeth. Just the usual disappointed head shakes, the guilt, the classic "we gave you everything" routine. He yelled louder. I didn't stop him. My daughter had already gone into her room and closed the door. Eventually he told them to leave. Told them not to come back until they apologized. My mom looked at him like he slapped her. My dad didn't say anything. But he left. He followed. It should have felt like a victory. But it didn't. It felt like something had cracked open and now we were all waiting to see what spilled out next. 3 days later my brother called again. He sounded tired. Said our parents had dropped off gifts for his kids. Toys, clothes, even new tablets. But nothing for my daughter. Not a card. Not a dollar store stuffed animal. Nothing. He paused and then said I already bought her gifts. I knew they wouldn't. Then he told me something I didn't expect. He was taking back the car he gave them 2 months ago. The one they bragged about like they bought it themselves. He was going to call them that night and tell them it was over. That until they apologized they didn't get to keep the benefits of being family. I didn't say anything. I didn't cry. I didn't thank him. I just sat there listening to the weight shifting. And I knew this wasn't just about the car. This was the beginning of something they weren't ready for. But I was. My daughter didn't ask for much that Christmas. Just a sketchbook with thick pages and a set of good markers. That's it. She even told me she didn't care if it was wrapped. Said she just wanted something that wouldn't bleed through when she colored. I got her that plus a few extras. Socks with cartoon sloths on them, a soft hoodie in her favorite shade of purple, a tiny desk lamp shaped like a cat. None of it was expensive. But she lit up when she saw it like I'd given her gold. We were going to spend the day at home, just the two of us. But my brother insisted we come to his place. Said it wouldn't be the same without us and the kids were asking about their cousin. I hesitated. I knew our parents would be there. But he said he'd handle them if anything happened. So I said okay. We got there early. My daughter ran off with her cousins immediately, and I helped his wife finish up some sides in the kitchen. Felt good for a little while. Normal even. Like we belonged. When our parents arrived they made an entrance, of course. Loud, cheerful, full of plastic warmth. They brought in 2 huge gift bags each, red and gold, tied with ribbons. I watched them hand out packages to my brother's boys. Toys, clothes, envelopes of money. They even brought a drone. A drone. For a 10-year-old. And for my daughter, nothing. She stood near the tree, smiling, waiting. I saw her eyes flick from my mother's hands to the gifts in the bags to the floor. Back and forth. Waiting for something to be handed to her. It never came. My mother glanced at her, then looked away like she wasn't even standing there. My dad made a joke about how some kids didn't need more junk because it's not like they're active anyway. I don't think anyone laughed. But I did hear my daughter swallow. That tiny quiet sound. She went upstairs on her own. Didn't say anything. Just picked up her little sketchbook and walked away. My brother noticed immediately. He stood up from the couch, still holding a ribbon in his hand, and looked directly at our mom. Where's her gift? She looked at him like the question was offensive. Said she didn't think we'd be there. That she thought Gloria was trying to separate the family again. Then she said without flinching that it wasn't her job to cater to a child who clearly had health issues. Her exact words. Health issues. That was it. My brother put the ribbon down, stood up and went to the coat closet. Grabbed his keys, his jacket. He asked where he was going. He said calmly, I'm going to get the car back. My dad scoffed. My mom started talking fast. About how this was all an overreaction, about how they'd done so much for us, about how I was turning everyone against them. He said the car was a gift. My brother looked at her and said not anymore. They stood there for a second, stunned. Like someone had just flipped the power off. Then he walked out the door. After they left, I went upstairs. My daughter was sitting on the bed, drawing something with thick red marker. A house with a single window and a closed door. No people. I sat down next to her. She didn't look up. She asked if Grandma and Grandpa forgot her. I said no. Then she asked if they didn't like her. I didn't answer. Because the truth was worse than not liking her. They were trying to erase her. Punish her for not being what they wanted. Thin, quiet, neat. Someone they could show off at church and tell stories about at dinners. Someone who didn't look like me. Someone who didn't come from me. Later that night my brother came back. He looked drained but sure of himself. He handed me the keys. Said they won't call you to apologize. Just to ask for it back. And he was right. The next morning at 9:12 a.m. my mom called. She didn't ask how we were. She didn't ask about my daughter. She went straight into it. She said my brother was being unreasonable. That I needed to talk to him. That they needed the car. That it was cruel to take it away during the holidays. Not once did she mention the missing gift. Not once did she say she regretted anything. I let her talk. Then I hung up. I didn't say anything back. Because I realized something in that moment. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't miscommunication. This was who they were. And who I wasn't willing to be anymore. I thought taking the car back would be the final blow. That they'd sulk, maybe make a few angry phone calls, then retreat into silence until their next guilt campaign. That's always been their way. Create damage, wait it out, then reappear like nothing ever happened. But this time they didn't vanish. They shifted tactics. It was 3 days after Christmas. Still cold. Still quiet. My daughter was at the kitchen table painting over her old drawings, turning mistakes into flowers like she always did. I was halfway through my coffee when the doorbell rang. It was 7:42 a.m. I wasn't expecting anyone, and no one decent shows up before 8 unless it's an emergency or a statement. It was my mother. She stood on the porch holding a thick white envelope, wearing the same coat she always wore when she wanted to look more important than she was. I opened the door because curiosity is a dangerous thing, and I had to know what she thought this was going to be. She didn't greet me. Didn't ask to come in. She looked tired but determined, like someone about to argue their way out of a speeding ticket. She held out the envelope and said, "It's for January. We want the car back." I didn't move. Just stared at her hand. She pushed the envelope closer. Then she added, "Look, if that's what it takes, we'll even apologize." Not an apology. Just the idea of one. A negotiation. As if saying sorry would be a chore they could perform once and be done with, like paying a late fee. Behind me I heard my daughter's footsteps. She must have come to see who it was. She looked past me and saw my mother and gave a small, uncertain wave. My mother didn't wave back. I turned and shut the door. Quietly. Without a word. She didn't knock again. The envelope stayed on the porch. I didn't touch it. I made breakfast. I got my daughter dressed. We took a walk. I didn't mention what happened. Later, around noon, I told my brother they showed up. He groaned and said he'd expected it. Then he told me something I didn't know. Apparently, a week before Christmas, our parents tried to put me back into their will. Told him they wanted to do the right thing and make it up to me. He told them not to bother unless they apologized first. Really apologized. Not for the sake of inheritance or keeping appearances. They didn't. Instead, they tried to buy their way back with guilt and envelopes. It made sense in a sick way. They thought I was like them. That I cared about money and image and legacy. They had no idea that I'd been giving them $2,000 a month not because I wanted to, but because they made me feel like I owed them. Because guilt was always louder than logic in our family. That stopped now. 2 mornings later my phone buzzed. Photo from my dad. The car, the one my brother had taken back, was parked outside a mechanic's garage. The caption underneath. "Hope your brother's ready to pay for this. Not our fault." No explanation. No context. Just blame and burden tossed around like a game. But the twist came later that afternoon. I was sweeping the porch when my daughter stepped outside holding the envelope. She had found it behind a flower pot, like they'd hoped I'd take it quietly later. "Mom, someone left this out here." I opened it expecting money or a demand. But it was a letter. Not from my mom. Not from my dad. From my aunt. My mother's older sister. Someone I hadn't heard from in almost 9 years. She'd heard what happened, not from them but from a cousin who had been at the party. He said she was sorry. That she wished she'd spoken to me sooner. She said when they were growing up my mother used to treat her the same way. Cut her down, isolate her, control everything. He thought I might feel like I was alone in it. But I wasn't. At the end of the letter she left her phone number. Said if you ever want to talk. Or if she ever wants to come visit. I'd love to know her. I read it 3 times before folding it and putting it in a drawer. That night after my daughter fell asleep I sat on the couch and stared at the door. For once no one was knocking. No one was demanding. No one was asking for anything. And I realized, the silence was starting to feel good. Not empty. Free. New Year's passed without a single word from them. Not a call. Not a message. Not even one of my mom's usual cryptic texts. The ones she liked to send during the holidays that sounded like blessings but always had a layer of guilt underneath. Just silence. I should have felt peace. and part of me did. But part of me also knew better. Silence from them was never surrender. It was preparation. 2 weeks later, my daughter got invited to her first sleepover. My brother's youngest was turning 7. The girls were close and my daughter had been counting the days like it was Christmas. She packed early, picked her outfit a week in advance, wrapped a drawing in tissue paper and taped a candy cane to it. She was humming in the car the whole ride there. We arrived early and I decided to stay for lunch. My brother had grilled chicken and vegetables and there was hot cider on the stove. Felt simple, like something normal people would do. For a moment I let myself enjoy it. Then I heard the crunch of tires in the driveway. I didn't even have to look. I knew. My brother's wife peeked through the curtain and sighed. Great. She didn't bother hiding her irritation. She just grabbed 2 glasses and walked back into the kitchen like she wanted no part of it. I stayed seated. So did my brother. We didn't speak. My parents came in with the same forced cheer they always used when they wanted something. They were carrying bags, like always, but it wasn't hard to see who they were for. They handed toys and envelopes to my brother's boys. A stack of books for his youngest daughter. One of those trendy kids' smartwatches. There were even personalized name tags on the bags. Nothing for my daughter. Not a card. Not a small trinket. Not even a piece of chocolate. She was upstairs, still in her cousin's room. She didn't see the moment happen. But I did. And so did my brother. He didn't explode this time. He just looked at them and asked plainly why. My mother had no shame. She said we didn't know if she'd be here. We weren't sure she was invited. My dad added it's probably for the best. She doesn't need more stuff. She needs structure. Routine. Then he looked at me. You know what I mean. My brother stood up. Not fast. Not loud. Just steady. Then he said you need to leave. Right now. My mother looked offended, like she was being disrespected in her own home, which wasn't even her home. She opened her mouth like she wanted to lecture us, but my brother cut her off before she said anything. Oh, you don't get to show up with gifts for everyone but my niece and act like that's not cruel. You don't get to hurt my sister in my house. My dad muttered something low. I didn't catch it. My brother did. He turned to him and said, "Get out. Both of you." They actually left. No scene. No big exit speech. They walked out with the empty gift bags and got in their car. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even loud. But it felt final. My brother sat down again like nothing happened. Passed me a fork and asked if I wanted more salad. He didn't say sorry. He didn't need to. That moment said everything. I stayed another hour, then said goodbye to my daughter. She gave me a sleepy hug and asked if I'd come early tomorrow morning. I promised I would. On the drive home, the silence in the car felt heavier than usual. The next evening, after I picked her up and we were on our way back home, she looked out the window for a long time. Then she said it. Why doesn't anyone love me? Just like that. Not sad. Not dramatic. Just honest. Like she was trying to figure it out on her own. I froze. I wanted to give her some tidy, hopeful answer. Something about how not everyone shows love the right way or how some people are just confused. But I couldn't lie to her anymore. She deserved more than that. I pulled over into a gas station parking lot. The kind with flickering lights and gum stains on the curb. I turned to her and said the truth. Some people only love what they can shape and control. Some people only care when you match what they want. But that's not real love. That's conditions. And you, my girl, are not a project. You're not a problem to fix. You're a person. A good one. She didn't cry. She just nodded and stared at the dashboard. Then she said, "They make me feel like I don't exist." I didn't know what to say. So I just reached for her hand and held it until we were both ready to keep driving. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up reading the letter from my aunt again, the one I'd left in the drawer. I stared at her number. Wondered if I'd be opening something dangerous by calling her or something necessary. But I was sure of one thing. The people who made my daughter question if she was lovable, they didn't get another chance. Not after that. I used to feel guilty for cutting them off. Now I feel guilty for waiting so long. It didn't come as a phone call or a knock. The first sign was a screenshot, sent to me by my parents' neighbor, Mrs. Klein. She's in her 70s, gossips like it's her job, but she means well. The screenshot was from Facebook. My mother had posted a quote, white cursive over a blurred image of a candle. Sometimes bridges burn because they were never meant to carry you forward. No context. No names. But the comments were full of her friends chiming in. So sorry you're going through this. Stay strong. Some kids just don't understand what parents give up for them. And then my favorite. You've always been the best mother, never forget that. She replied to every comment with some cryptic reply about being heartbroken but at peace, letting go, trusting God to restore what's broken. Meanwhile, I knew exactly what it was. Her trying to reframe the story before anyone could ask why her kids stopped talking to her. Then came the real performance. A few days later they showed up at my house. No warning. No call. Just two figures on my porch while I was unloading groceries from the car. My daughter was upstairs painting in her room, music on. I wanted to pretend I didn't see them, but I couldn't risk them knocking and dragging her into it. I opened the door and stepped outside. My dad did the talking. My mom stood slightly behind him, arms crossed, the way she always did when she wanted people to think she was just there to support, not instigate. He said they wanted to talk. He said they missed us, my daughter especially. He said they were ready to move forward. And then he said something I wasn't prepared for. He said we talked about it and we're willing to apologize. That's what you need to hear. That's what you need to hear. Not we're sorry. Not we were wrong. Just another transactional offer. Like I was a customer they wanted to retain. Like they were offering a refund to avoid a bad review. I didn't say anything. Then my mother spoke. She said, look, we've all made mistakes. Let's not let pride tear apart the only family we've got. And then she added, maybe we can talk about getting the car back now that things are calming down. And there was the reason they were really standing on my porch. Not for love. Not for reconciliation. For a car. I felt something leave me in that moment. Not anger, not sadness. Just wait. Like a rope I'd been dragging for too long had finally snapped. I said, I'm not interested in starting over. There won't be any more contact. This is done. My dad frowned like he couldn't believe I was serious. My mother's mouth twitched like she was about to cry, but she didn't. She said, you'll regret this someday. When we're gone, you'll realize what you threw away. I looked her in the eye and said, I already regret wasting so much time trying to fix something that was never whole. Then I went back inside and closed the door. They didn't knock again. I waited. I expected maybe a card. A voicemail. A guilt bomb dropped in the mail. But they went quiet. I think even they knew it was different this time. I canceled everything for good that month. The last bills. The last auto payments. I freed up almost $2,000 a month, and for the first time I got to ask myself, what would my daughter and I do with all this breathing room? We got her new art supplies. Signed her up for a little weekend pottery class. I repainted her room the way she wanted. Pale green walls, fake vines along the windows, a bed shaped like a tiny house. One night while she was organizing her markers she asked me, so, are they gone now? I said yes. She was quiet for a moment, then smiled and said good. Not angry. Not sad. Just done. That weekend she made a little clay pendant in class. Looked like a heart, kind of lopsided and uneven, painted purple with a fingerprint in the middle. She gave it to me and said, you should wear it so you don't forget you're mine. I haven't taken it off since. And sometimes late at night when I think about how much I used to bend over backwards for people who only saw me as a utility, not a person, I reach up, touch that little clay pendant, and remember what it feels like to belong to someone who loves you with no conditions. I didn't lose a family. I just finally stopped paying rent in someone else's idea of love.